swing.
Huh?
We're just swinging.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, got one more to get.
We have 7 o'clock, so we have Pastor Fred Schlegel with us. I'd like to just go by Fred, I guess. Wheatland Congregational Church, you can lead some prayer after we go get the pledge.
I'm really grateful that you invite the Lord into your meetings. That's awesome. It's about our hearts. Thank you, Father, for allowing us to approach you in prayer. May we be mindful of the great price that you paid, that we might come to your throne of grace. Pray that you'd have your hand in this meeting, that we'd be cognizant of the needs and the wants and the desires of others as we handle your business. This coupled with your wisdom, help us to make some good decisions you'd be pleased with. May all that we say and do sing praises to your name. In Christ's name, amen.
Thank you. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hope you've had a moment to look over the agenda. When you're ready, I'll entertain a motion to accept, or if there's any changes to it, or move.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Johnson to accept. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, aye. And they're opposed? Carried. We have Commissioner Benzing with us this evening. You do not see yet. If he arrives, we'll give him the floor as soon as we finish what we're on. Same with, I don't see Road Commissioner Gary Lane. So we will move to public comment. Each person has 5 minutes. Comments should be addressed to the board. The board may wish to answer, however, not necessarily our policy, although we do often enter into dialogue. Any public comment? Hearing none at this time, we'll move along. Did you get a chance, Stephanie, on the budget workshop minutes? Are those here or not? I don't think they're technically due yet.
After 7,
Yes.
special meeting yet?
Yes.
Okay.
So you have just the one copy of it, or?
No, we got that.
No, I'm sorry, that's. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Johnson, second, Ms. Williams. All in favor, aye. And opposed? Carried. And then our regular minutes from February 14th, I guess I did those out of order, I'm sorry. We have a motion to approve those.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you again.
The only thing I saw was on page 4, our share, up at the top, the road group contract. Our share should be like 17,000, not 17, unless.
Total bid 71K, our shares are 17,000.
Yes.
Get
$17.
Skippy a break.
I'll second.
So I assume your motion was with that amendment.
Yes.
Anything else? Any other further discussion or anything there? If not, all in favor, aye. And opposed? Carried. Here's stuff for the record. Treasurer's report. Motion to accept.
I'll move.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Carried. Moving along to old business. Do we have anything, Al, or Randy, on dry hydrants? Anything new this month?
Well, I did go around beyond the point where I went before before I stopped at the garage area, and that's where I found the lake the closest to the Blacktop Road. And going a little further, you go on problem is it's so shallow there, you're gonna go a long ways out into the lake.
Have you looked at the one out there at Hackman Lake? The
Yeah.
one that Jones Hill's got in?
Yeah.
That's not very deep.
Well, I haven't seen where it went in.
I see, well, they pulled, it sets back 20 feet
Yeah.
away from the water edge.
I went to
If you
that
walk
first
up and
section.
look right at that water where it goes into the river, you can see.
I went into the first section, I didn't see it there, so I figured it was maybe out in the lake, and I was traveling on private property there, so I,
It's right there in that little,
a
like
little
channel.
narrow section, yeah, a little, you know. You know, I went on one over there by the church there on Litchfield Road, I looked at that one. And that, at the time anyway, had maybe a foot above and a foot below at least. The, one area that I did come across was on Mock, the backside of Lake Bel Air.
Mhm.
And the only thing is, it's high water right now, so I don't know what the level will be during the drier part of the season.
Well, that part of that, like I said, was in that sediment catch right there, so that's fairly deep right through there. If you can get right up next to it.
Yeah, there's one area that's probably only about 6 foot from the road, so there is a guardrail there.
We can go right up to the guardrail.
Yeah.
Kent Machendo, what did you think about the side of the lake closest to the road?
Well, you've got a big swamp area there, cattails and all that stuff through there. And then you'd have to go quite a ways in that, and I did talk to Brian Dubois, and I mentioned that to him, he said, well, I'm not gonna take my equipment out in the swamp. And even going onto the lake, it's gonna be a problem, I think, because you're gonna have to go out so far.
Okay.
And he did mention, I mentioned what you had talked about as far as initially how much per hydrant. And he initially talked 500, and he kind of laughed at that, and he says, you know, it costs about, I think he said $100 in wintertime for a piece of equipment per hour. In the summer, it drops up to 90 or something like this, so it would be, you know, that 500 beaten up real fast at those rates, so.
I'm not sure if we were really considering a labor factor very much at the beginning, and materials are probably higher now too.
Yeah, I'm not thinking that that's a set in stone price.
Yeah, yeah, you would have to look at each one individually and quote us on.
We didn't have the information as far as cost of labor and the initial stuff when we started. That was a ballpark figure that we threw out.
Yeah.
So I don't see that that's a set in stone.
I'm still looking for other places. I was hoping that Commissioner Leonard was gonna be here, so I was gonna make a comment about the gravel roads that are traveling now.
I'll join you.
Good luck.
The gravel area, a little tough right now, with the frost going down, and hopefully the road will be on them when it's suitable to be on them. The Old Town Hall Library purchase, I have not heard anything from the buyer, I will be getting with them. I think probably it's just that we've all been busy. And Lake Bel Air resolution, we are minus paperwork on that. We had, that happened just before Michelle left from being clerk, and we just don't know what it all is, so I'm still doing some searching on that. I looked back through some minutes, and I will be contacting the attorney on that to ask them how to proceed. That or what has to be done.
And we are withholding, are we not, Pat, for their dredging of that lake?
No, I think not this year. I have paid enough.
Well, we were talking to after the meeting, that said they saw on the taxes.
Oh, they're being taxed on it.
Tax on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the
I
tax
did
money's
speak to
going.
Mr. Wheeler, equalization, and he does not think he has any paperwork, he simply did what we told him to do, assisted in drawing
Right.
And
the
they-
assessment district.
And I was gonna say, they did get their permit approved,
Oh,
so
Good.
they did get that moving, so I have that here in one copy.
Well, I'll be following up on that, if you'll kindly put an action item in the minutes. That top that we talked about for the board review supervisor, doesn't seem to be a very definite need right now, but since the laptop that we have is outdated on the program, so Windows 7, I believe, I would suggest we go ahead. However, right now, what's his name at the county, Dave Holcomb, said things are hard to come by, and he was going to be checking, so I don't think there's probably a big rush, but when we can get a reasonable deal, I would propose we still go ahead, because basically the one we have is outdated. Pat, you have heard from the Hillsdale Transfer Station, water, you have a rate increase?
This is new business.
Yes, I'm sorry. So they raised it from $3 to $4 a bag, and
We only pay $1.
does the board feel that we're doing the same at Jefferson, $1 a bag, I understand? Is the board's wishes to keep it at that rate, or should we help the citizens of Adams a little more with their disposal costs?
I'll put more towards it.
Sorry?
Cleveland Township pays for 8 bags per month, total municipal thing. They have for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, but are they gonna wanna pay $32?
They're paying whatever the going rate is now. I don't know.
I think, what is Jefferson, $2.50 a bag?
I think that's what they were paying, we pay $1.
And so,
But I almost think they raised it from that.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Last time I was there, it was the same.
250?
Yeah. I don't know, I'd say we raise it up and cut some of the cost. So I wouldn't be opposed to saying to go, since it's $4 a bag, let's pay half of that, and do it $2. That'd be fair, I think.
That is a motion, I presume? Do we have
That is a motion.
second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I will give him a call when this week.
Very good, thank you, Pat. We held an insurance meeting February 16th. It's been such a busy month, and probably longer ago than that. Stephanie, do you have anything to report on that? And we have to talk about the renewal.
Yeah, we have a renewal with a due date of the 19th, so it's coming up. I don't know, do you guys as a board want me to go through the coverage levels and, all the details of the plan? Because I'm not sure I necessarily want to try that. But I can tell you the previous coverage levels. So the library was covered at $297,175. The administrative buildings here at $373,415 with $7,500 on contents, and then the storage building at $14,773. So what we did talk about at the meeting is if there were a claim here, the total amount that would be covered is the total on the policy, or I should say between the two buildings. So we would have the $373,000 from here, $297,000 from the library. So in anticipation of the library going away, we talked to them. I believe they said they could come out and do an assessment or an adjustment on it, but we kind of talked about just raising that number to about $450,000 and cover. So even if it's a duplicate covered for now, or maybe we want to wait until we sell the library, that's an option. So I've got quotes on it. We also talked about raising the contents up to $12,000 because $7,500 really doesn't cover a whole lot. So with that said, there's no coverage on vehicles. $25,000 is on the Inland Marine schedule. It's the miscellaneous equipment, which I don't remember off the top of my head what that actually is. I believe it's property inside, but that doesn't quite make sense. But either way, just to give you a heads up or tell you, the premium was quoted, I should say the renewal was quoted at $5,765. I think we have budgeted $7,800, so we're still well within what we expected. But then to make the changes, to increase the value of the township hall to $450 is an estimated $99 of coverage. To increase the contents on property is an estimated $6 in premium. And then to remove the library from coverage would be an estimated credit of $286. So I guess I would propose we go ahead and raise it now to the $450 and then the $12,000 on the contents for an extra $105, and then once the library drops off, we'll get the $286 credit.
And that's a yearly premium, correct?
Yeah. So that makes the total 5880,
Proposal.
after it goes away. Well, 5880 for now, and then once the library goes away.
Proposal is a motion,
That is my motion.
and do I hear a second?
Yes.
Thank you. All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried.
Okay.
The chair of our zoning board of appeals, Chuck Randall, pointed out to me, and I have been overlooking it, that we are to have a member from planning commission to zoning board of appeals. So Chad French is here. He has said that he's a newer member to the planning commission. I think he served 4 or 5 meetings maybe. And he's willing to be the member from the planning commission to the zoning board of appeals. So I would entertain a motion to, if there are no objections, to appoint him in that manner.
I motion.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you. All in favor, aye? Opposed? Carried. Now, we do need 2 more regular members and 2 alternate members. We could hold a meeting now, if everybody's here, but we really need to fill these up. I do have, I've already reached out to some. I've got some answers and some that are politely declining. And I have a list of some yet, but if you have candidates for that zoning board of appeals, maybe talk to them, have them get a hold of me, or suggest a name to me, or bring it to us. I do not know if we're gonna have to hold a meeting before our next meeting at this point. And we are further down going to be scheduling a budget hearing, so with notice, we could maybe, if I had some names, or if you guys had some names, could deal with that within that meeting. So that covers that pretty well. A little report on rezoning 5500 State. That's the property on the curve where the Sobers ran their business and then leased it, and it is for sale. Planning Commission approved changing it from commercial to industrial. There either needs to be, to meet that approval, and they didn't state this well in print, but either a corner of the building taken off, which I find ludicrous, or the zoning board of appeals needs to hear that to give a variance there. However, that goes presently, and I'll try to get the paperwork around yet this week, because Monday, the county planning commission meets Monday. And they only meet like every quarter. They have a 30-day window to review it. The law just says that they have to see it. Their decision is not anything final. Then it comes back to us, the board. If we approve, it goes in the paper. And I think after 7 days with no objections, it's changed. So that's kind of a rundown on the process there. And I do have right here correspondence from Mr. Puckett and his wife, and Lucas Law, PC. And it's basically just going over the law, the process. It's actually, I've read most of this before, but since we don't deal with this all the time, it was really good to have this. So if anybody wants to see this, this is the cover letter. There's 3 or 4 highlighted sections of law, and then there's something from the MTA, the 2006 Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. And Jason, I don't know, maybe you'd like Stephanie to run a copy of this or something. Look it over. Wouldn't be a bad idea for the planning commission to get copies on that too. We have, finally, a proposed solar farm, so if anybody wants to look at that. I have not, as of yet, given zoning permission. I thought it was gonna be fairly cut and dry, but when I looked at the zoning, there was a couple of questions I'm not quite sure how to handle, so I've written to the attorney on that, copied to Stephanie, and waiting to hear back from them. So that's where that stands right now. And Clerk Scott on the drop box. One of the handouts you have is on the law, the section of the law that addresses Dropbox. Do you want to elaborate at all on that?
Other than to say the talk is that a bill was proposed and passed that you can't use Dropboxes unless there's a video camera on it. So as the election stuff progresses without me, I will do the good deed and tell you that that runs into a problem out there. Either remove it or put a sign on the outside that no ballots can be used.
And moving along, I emailed this letter from Representative Fink that was sent to the Secretary of State. I don't know if any of you caught it in the email, so I printed off a copy, and it's not very lengthy, but I'm rather pleased that Andrew took the initiative to do this when I reached out to just make sure he was aware of this. So, dear Secretary Benson, this is to inquire about the actions taken by the Office of the Secretary of State regarding the administration of elections in Adams Township, Hillsdale County. In October 2021, the office ordered Adams Township Clerk Stephanie Scott to refrain from any election administration activities and directed the Hillsdale County Clerk administer the November 2021 election in her place. It appears this order was made because the office had asked for but not received certain assurances from Clerk Scott regarding her plans to administer the election. In support, the Secretary of State office pointed to MCL 168.21, MCL 168.31, and MCL 168.32, and Hare versus Berrien County, I believe that is, Board of Election Commissioners, 373 Michigan 526, a whole bunch of other numbers, 1299 W2E 864 from 1964. As I read them, these statutes in this case do not clearly authorize the Secretary the authority to relieve a local elections official of their election administration role absent a court order to that effect. MCL 168.21 allows the Secretary to exercise, in quotations, supervisory control, in quotations, over Michigan elections. I have not found another example of that authority being used to strip a local clerk of her election administration duties simply because the clerk didn't make the specific promises the Secretary demanded. MCL 168.31 and 3.2 allow the Secretary and her Director of Elections to instruct and direct local officials on how to conduct elections. Even granting that the authority to direct local officials is broad and powerful, it does not necessarily follow that the power to direct includes the power to remove. In Hare, when the local officials were allegedly violating the Secretary's instruction, the court did not strip them of their duties, but merely granted the Secretary's prayer for an instruction to the defendants to follow the Secretary's directive. It is not obvious from this case law that supervisory control of election administration includes the authority to demand assurances of a local clerk prior to the election, and in the absence of such assurances, remove the clerk from her otherwise obligatory duties. It is especially not obvious that such a removal could occur without a court order, but simply on the administrative action of the Secretary. In light of the foregoing analysis, my questions for your office are, number one, does the Secretary believe that statutory supervisory control, that's quotations again, held by the Secretary includes requiring assurances from local officials to follow the Secretary's directives above and beyond the constitutionally required oath of office? If so, are there limits to the Secretary's power to require such assurances? Number two, does the Secretary believe that without a court order, the Secretary has discretion to remove local officials who do not commit to following the Secretary's directives to the Secretary's satisfaction? If so, is there a limit to the Secretary's power to remove an official? The fair and efficient administration of our elections is paramount in maintaining the public's trust in our government. Your prompt response to these questions would be appreciated and would assist not only the people of my district, but all local officials across the state. Sincerely, Andrew Fink, State Representative, 58th District, Michigan. I have not heard that there has been any response to this. Okay, now we have status of constitutional role of clerk, and I don't know if you want to take it from there, Stephanie, on those two items that I have underneath that.
I just wanted to advise the lawsuit was filed with Secretary of State, Michigan Bureau of Elections, Michigan State Police, and Hillsdale County Clerk and Deputy Clerk for their roles in stripping the constitutional duties of the clerk's position in Adams Township. So, stay tuned. I'm sure you guys will be hearing more on that. And then the second part of it, I wanted to provide you guys, we talked about it briefly, the actual contract for the tabulator. And I took the liberty myself to print it off inside, and I'm going to give one to each of the board members and encourage you to read it. I've highlighted areas that are of specific interest that do indicate that it is connected to the broadband services, which Pat is internet, and also that there is an image stored on that tabulator. So the interesting part to me is that we signed 8 pages, probably all the townships, and nobody has a clue what was in this contract when we took over those tabulators to run elections. So I'm gonna pass them out to you guys and encourage, look at the highlighted spots and put some pieces together on this whole thing, on why they're coming after me for that tabulator. I do have extra copies. I don't know if you two ladies want one. I did actually make one specifically for you in mind. You don't want one? And then I do have one extra, but if anyone wants one, I'm happy to email them out, or I will make copies for you. But it's actually a very interesting read, so you understand how the tabulators work. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Budget hearing, we need to set that. There needs to be a minimum of 6 days notice in paper at that time. So what day between now and the end of the month might the board like to have the budget hearing?
We do it next week and get it done, but probably towards the end of the week, since we have to do 6 days published notice.
6 days minimum.
And normally, Hillsdale Daily News, it was an email to a person. Now it's like they've been bought out some by some bigger entities, so I can't say if I call her tomorrow, she'll get it in the next day's paper. So I'd like a few extra days to make sure it gets in the
And I
paper.
think they don't run a Monday paper anymore.
I don't even know.
So
But I just know it takes longer.
How about next Thursday?
24th?
That work?
24th.
What is it?
24th.
24th,
And what time?
6:30.
6:30? Is that good with everybody? Let's plan on that then. And Stephanie, you'll go ahead and get that published. So 24, 6:30. Okay, we're ready for bills.
As submitted in front of you, but I'm going to modify it and add on the 5880 for the insurance contract that we just talked about. So that makes that total 15,173 for the month on the general fund and nothing on the cemetery, just paid out this month.
I'm sorry, 110.50, how much was it?
I was adding 5880, so 15,173.50.
Thank you. When you're ready, I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills.
Make a motion.
Thank you. Wait a second. All right, thank you. Any discussion, any further looking before we vote? All set? All in favor, aye? And opposed? Carried.
Did you see my note? I need a couple of addresses for my new planning commission board of review guys.
Yes.
Do you happen to have them?
I don't right now.
Okay. So there's like 4 or 5 checks in there. Oh, you do have them? The actual addresses? Will you leave a note on my desk then so I can get it in front of me?
Thank you. Okay, under supervisors' notes and announcements, I struggled with this a little bit, but I just felt like if the board should know, I don't know for what reason, but I found the treasurer's door drawer locked 3 or 4 times now, and Pat was notified the first time and the last time. The middle time I just pulled it shut. But having happened 3 times, it's just very strange, and it just let the board know whatever's happening. I don't
Because
know.
I pull it too and jiggle the handle. And I do the same with hers if I've been in there.
No, when I come through, I almost always double check
Yeah.
doors like that, so very strange. I know Randy adjusted it, but I did note, I think it was after the adjustment, you only tighten the screws, I believe.
Yeah, just readjust everything.
That the latch into the striker is very close, but still I found that if it's latched and you wiggle it,
It shouldn't.
I think it should be popping open. So I have no idea what's going on, I just felt it should be, wanted to, what I feel are a little bit of deficiencies of the planning commission, that we have some newer members that haven't been long enough for this really to be applicable to them. But, sometimes I'm a little disappointed in the members' overall knowledge and digging into the intricacies of the job, you might say, the law behind it, etc. The master plan is part of that. And along that same vein, master plan, I'm not confident that it has to be redone periodically. There is a time stated, and we're a little past that time. So that's one thing that the planning commission should be on top of and review the master plan. A yearly report is supposed to be given to the board. I don't know if we've ever done that. There's things like this that seems like the planning commission, if we're going to have something, should be a little more on top of. And minutes in the past have been pretty sketchy. I don't know if that's a problem now, but that's something that's important, that you have the basics of the meeting, and votes, who's there, times you start, and things like that. So I'm just bringing this to the board, and anybody that's on the planning commission here to kind of pay attention to these and any other items that are important. Appreciate the people that are willing to serve. Chad has come in recently. I don't think we have anybody else here on the planning commission, but he had to, was your second meeting? You had to run the meeting because Darryl was out with injury, and he did a fine job. And again, people like Chad or his name's John, who's a brand new member. I think he's only done one meeting. They're not going to be up on this stuff immediately, but for the members that have been on the board quite a while, something that maybe they should put just a little more effort to. Anything further from the clerk?
Just a couple of things. When we did the insurance review, we talked to the insurance agents about the town hall rental form. He did send us a copy. I haven't really spent a whole lot of time looking at it, but it brings a little bit more of the language for liability into it. So I think it's worth looking at it, comparing it to what we have for our township current rental agreement. So what I said I'd probably do is take a look at it this month and.
You wanna give me a copy?
Yeah, I'll give you a copy, and then I'll maybe type up a draft that includes it all and get it to you guys before next meeting, so we can take a look at that. See if we can add a little more protection in there. In your packets that I left you is the W-4s on the request of the auditor, we get W-4s filled out by you guys. And then the third thing, I guess I'm curious as to an election update, because I heard from a township constituent that he received his AV ballot. So I'm curious if someone can provide me any updates on what's going on.
I received two and I took them to the county.
You took them to the county.
Well, you can't.
Well, you can't legally either, Pat.
Well, what am I gonna do?
Contact the county clerk and have them come
I
and
can
get
have it out there and pick them up.
If they're going to interject, that's theirs. And of course, we can't tell you what to do or not, but I would certainly be cautious.
So is there a plan on how this election is gonna be administered?
I
I know
don't
nothing, but you're the main contact from the county?
Yeah, he's got a board, as far as I know, the workers.
What's on the calendar for the 25th?
That's to appoint the workers.
So he's got a list, but they haven't been appointed by the election commission yet.
Right.
Okay, is that all? Ms. Scott?
That's all for me.
Okay, thank you. Anything new on recreation, Jason?
Nothing so far.
All right, thank you. Any other announcements? Anything we've missed? Anybody of the audience think should be announced? We'll move into public comment then.
Couple things, because I just got to pay my house insurance, but when I heard your bill for the insurance here, I know it's because it's a public building, it's cost so much more and you rent it out, and that's a huge difference between what I pay and what they pay here. Did we get it for several different companies?
Right, we didn't take it out this year.
I'm sorry?
We did not take it out to bid, no, this year.
No.
But a lot of townships have the same agency. I mean, it's a public property, and yes, there's liability involved and cost of building and such, so.
attended your budget workshop, and I know at the time, the expenditures exceeded the revenue by about 80,000, and you made some adjustments on it that was gonna work with the total. Was 2001 budget the same way, did we exceed the expenditures or the revenue by?
No, we had it balanced,
Balanced?
yeah, we did. We removed the giant slush fund and contingency fund.
You took money out of that?
No, there was nothing in, it's more to make the numbers balance, but there was some strange stuff with the budgeting over the last few years. But yeah, we did have it, but we had it balanced at the end of 2021. Right here.
And then, over there at the, transfer station, what do you do to show them your address or your driver's license, showing your address in here, you did the $2 rate versus the
You
$4
should have a card.
card?
Yeah, we covered the clerk.
Contact
You should,
them.
Okay, all right. And, I had talked with Stephanie one time, and at that time, she said that you weren't on the certified list to run an election. Is there something to that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, apparently there's a list that I assume it's up to Lansing of the clerks that are certified to run an election. And
I'm
your
certified to
name's
run an
not on
election.
that list. What she said,
Who said that?
Marty.
Well, based on what's been going on since October, I'm sure I've been officially removed from the state one illegally, but that will be addressed in the courts. But no, I was fully, up to date on all my classes and fully licensed to run elections until October 26th or whatever the date was, whatever date the county stepped in and did the actions of the state.
So one time you were on the list.
Oh, absolutely, I ran the March election. So, yeah.
Who else? David.
Just to introduce myself, my name is Nathan Lane. I'm a reporter with Reuters. I'm obviously from out of town, so thank you for allowing me to come. My question, I guess they're not really comments, they're questions for Clerk Scott. I wanted to know if you could share, sort of when you were developing your concerns about the machine and the process with respect to the tabulator, which kind of experts, like election experts or voting equipment experts, that you consulted while you were developing these concerns and sort of culminated in what transpired in October. That's my first, but I have 3 questions. Do you want me to go one by one, or?
Well, I was gonna say, upon advice from my attorney, I will wait to answer that. I got your FOIA request, so I'll let her and I discuss that in regards to, or address that in regards to your FOIA request.
Okay.
But at this point, I'm not going to proceed.
Okay, well, perhaps because it maybe does not relate to the substance of your lawsuit, could you tell us how you came into contact with Stephanie Lambert, your lawyer, and who's paying her legal fees?
I'm paying all legal fees.
You're paying her legal fees out of your own pocket?
Yes, I am. I've committed the township salary to retain this clerk position, so I am working at zero cost right now, so, yes.
Gotcha. And my third question is, was it your intention for the school millage election to do a hand count? And related to that, if you are reinstated, be it through the lawsuit or some other way, is it your intention to do hand count only elections going forward here in Adams Township?
I was exploring the option in October, and that's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Thank you.
Who else? They might beat you by a little, ladies go first. You want to hear Evans first?
Yeah, hey, I had a senior moment today, I'm sorry, I'm being late.
Well, we've done 7:30 for so long, you're excused.
Oh, jeez, anyway, yeah, I don't know if this has already been gone over a little bit, I can help tell it has, but I'm gonna go for it anyway. So, we got our absentee voter application. And at the top it says return to A. Dane at co.hillsdale.mi, which is his email address, I guess. And then it says Adams Township, Knowles Road, so on. So, with all this been going on, I'm like, okay,
So I send these in here. Who is going to handle this? Under whose custody and control is this document under? I guess it's Pat Williams. This is what I just heard you all
She
say.
said I shouldn't do it, but I've been appointed by the county to handle this.
Did you take an oath?
Yes.
So,
Well, I didn't.
who's running the election is what I'm trying to get. I mean, this is my right to vote here. Okay? This is my right to vote.
Right.
These are documents that I'm sending in, and at this point in time, I'm very concerned about who's in control of this stuff. And I mean, all due respect, you did what you thought you should do, and I don't know, I guess we just kind of are floating around here as to what's going on. But at first I thought, what the heck, I'll fill it out and send it in. And then I thought, you know, we gotta get this straightened out somehow. This is not comfortable as a voter. And then, so I'm concluding as we've had all these meetings that the county is running our elections. Okay. Well, then they should be getting these documents. I guess you already just had a little discussion about that. So they should come in here and pick these up. Do they get opened?
No.
No.
So you hand them the letters, closed letters, envelopes.
You take that back to the courthouse or send it wherever you want.
Yeah,
Then you get your ballot.
right.
Your ballot is enclosed with
I understand
envelope
that.
inside, and it is not opened until election day, during the hours the election is open. And you have to have a Republican and Democrat open those. I could go through and tell you
That's all
exactly how
right,
it's
but
done.
when I send these in, who opens these?
Nobody,
The application.
whoever is passing out the ballots. So right now it would be your county clerk.
So when it comes to this building, it'll be in an envelope with a post, I'm gonna mail it in. So then who touches it? Who opens it?
Nobody opens
In
it.
the envelope. It stays in the envelope.
And Pat takes it and has the
I'm
county
gonna
clerk,
have
the
mine
county clerk
stop
will
at
come here and
8
get
o'clock
it.
in the morning and pick them up.
Okay, so it doesn't get opened up.
No,
Okay,
absolutely not.
all right. So, now, at the last board meeting, this issue came up about the tabulator. And at the time, I was like, you know, I thought it was very unusual what you all did. The Hart people wrote that letter and said that the tabulator was compromised. The tabulator's been confiscated by the state police. It's been in their custody now since October, right? And who has investigated the tabulator? How do they know that it's compromised? Now, that question was asked at the last board meeting. You folks didn't know the answer. Dane was here. Dane was here. He didn't know the answer. I don't know if a Hart person was here. If he was, or her, I didn't hear anything. So we don't know how it's compromised, but it's compromised. And then we're told it's going to be, not only do we have to buy a new one, it's going to be destroyed. This is strange. And I thought of this analogy. If I had some kind of equipment, like a riding mower or something, I take it to a sales and service place, and I say, I think there's something wrong with my mower. And they come back and they say, well, yeah, there is. It's really bad. And I say, well, what's wrong with it? Well, we can't really tell you. All we know is this is really bad. Not only that, and I say, well, geez. Well, not only that, this thing has to be taken to the junkyard and destroyed. I'm like, what? And, fella, you're going to buy a new mower from us. Who does that? Would any one of you take something like a piece of equipment like that and then say, yeah, I'll buy another one from you? essentially, that's what you all did last month. We don't know what's wrong with the tabulator.
Thank God you did.
Thank God they did.
Yeah.
Can I?
Well, now, but wait a minute, I'm not done. Here's the following up. So that's that. Now, to that tonight, I guess, we've concluded the county is running our election. Why do we need a tabulator? Why do we need a tabulator? They're running the election.
Because we don't have one. Because it's been confiscated. And let me ask you this. So we get the confiscated tabulator back. And we put it back in here, we hold an election with the confiscated tabulator because everybody thinks that maybe that there's nothing wrong with it. So we run that election and it doesn't come out the way everybody thinks it's gonna be. Who's gonna blame what? The tabulator? They're gonna blame us? They're gonna blame who?
You do recall that the maintenance was the issue that drove this whole thing. So
And it
there
never
are
got done.
Maintenance
But it never
procedures for
got
that.
done.
I'm not an expert on these computers or anything, but it's a computer, for goodness sakes. Why does it have to be destroyed? I'm just asking these, to me, just questions that it doesn't make any sense to me. But as far as what you just said, again, if the county's running them, they should provide a tabulator.
I disagree.
Well, they're running the election, I don't know. Anyway, that's how I feel about it, and I just wanted to have my say, so.
If I recall, it was
Just-
the Hartner
just-
Civic.
Just a minute, the ladies were next.
Oh.
Janice,
Go ahead.
You're saying you're paying attorney fees. You're taking care of the retainer then?
Yes. It's
And
cost
that-
the township $0. Zero.
Okay. Well, we're already in at $5,500
Talk
for
to
the new
these guys
tabulator.
on that, because that was their decision.
And you say that you have, went through and passed your election certification to 2026?
Whatever's up to date, as per Marty's email.
You're up to date.
Yes, I am up to date.
Do you have your paperwork to show that?
Not right in front of me, but if you need me to go on and print off my certificate, I'm happy to do so.
I guess that's for me.
thank you. Janice, did you have something?
Yeah, a couple of questions. What you said, you're comparing your lawnmower, you're not comparing oats to oats, because nobody took the part out of your lawnmower. Part of our machine was kidnapped and put in, and it was already in a safe place in the office.
Obviously.
And then, hey, it's my turn to talk. She was already keeping it safe. And then they kidnapped part of that and took it out. My question is, who legally told you to take that machine apart and hide part of it so we couldn't vote?
I'm not gonna answer your question.
Okay. Okay. Who is our township attorney now that Fink is doing something else?
Jim Craig.
The firm is the same, Andrew Steph.
So he's still doing our-
So we're using his father, it's the same firm.
Yeah, same
Different
firm,
office.
so he's basically that too. Okay, next question. Where is the proposed solar farm going in?
You can look right here, I haven't honestly been through that, I don't know if there's 1,000 pages there or what. It's a pretty comprehensive report, but mostly, along State, between Knowles and Gay. Gay, of course, being east-west, so it'd be south of that, and on both sides of State there, which runs diagonally, and confined by Knowles Road, I believe. I think there's something like 243 acres total in the proposed project.
It was 341.
341, do you remember?
Okay, and then if you can answer my question, who legally told you to kidnap part of that machine and hide it?
You can read the lawsuit and it does address that.
Pardon?
You can read the lawsuit that was filed, it does address that issue.
Who told you to do that? Okay, another question. Who called the police when there was a report this building was broken and it wasn't broken into?
I don't believe that's filed that way. We simply, I say we, because I confirmed with Stephanie, it was her door, and we decided that probably we ought to have a report. We would know what's going to
So
say.
you called the police?
It happened, I found it on a Friday night, and we were both in the office the next day, and that's when we called them. The state police came, made a report of it. We found the door locked, but open. Okay. Remember what your comment or question was?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I just wanted to double check with Stephanie. I think, wasn't it the Hart Intercivic letter that, refused to cover liability on out of your jurisdiction, for safety and keeping? And so they would not back the machine further until it was a new and purchased, and they destroyed the other one. So basically, they were refusing to cover liability for the machine unless it was a new one.
I don't know if it actually addressed liability, it just that it had been compromised because it was out of
Yeah, so
custody.
they're basically not gonna back it, they're not gonna stand behind that machine because it's been compromised, so they want you to buy a new one. But yeah, that came from the Hart Intercivic letter, though, as far as the compromise and buying a new one. Correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else?
All this has been going on, the state police showed up to take the machine, didn't have, who signed it?
The district court judge. At about 1:45 a day. Anybody else?
Mark, I think we need to either address this Dropbox deal, or we need to put it on the agenda for next time, and probably get that off.
Say the last again.
Either to get it off, get it off the building, or the video camera.
One way or the other.
If we want to do that tonight,
Well, I hesitate since we're past that.
maybe put it on the agenda for
Next month.
My people use it when they rent the building and drop their key in an envelope and put it in there. Yeah. So
No.
when they leave, I got their key.
Let me ask you a question, that has no label on it, calling it elections Dropbox, does it?
No.
So we purchased that to our own funds.
Right.
If we want to use it for something like that, we just don't call it a Dropbox, does that work? An election Dropbox.
Well, the rest of the election savvy board shall have to make that decision.
Or we can contact the attorney, take route maybe, MTA.
They were just saving the money straight back here.
Yeah,
Bring me a key.
we can paint it a different color. I don't know, if need be. Seems like we could still use that, just not as a Dropbox.
some signage, with ballots in here.
Maybe. Why don't you give me an action item to reach out, maybe first to MTA, Andrew Fink, if necessary, attorney.
Well, the law's there for you guys to read, so.
I don't know, it seems like we might be able to get around that some way, shape, or form, and still use it in that capacity.
Well, it helps the people too, that are renting. And they put their name on it, and I know who it's from. In fact, I was able to buy a box of envelopes and put that in the kitchen. But if I'm not gonna be able to use it,
Right. Well, thank you for bringing that back up, Jason, we'll look into that. Who else on public comment, anybody? Well, hearing none, we'll call public comment, I'll entertain a motion